Hey guys, StarCraft here, and I have Ian with me again. Welcome back, Ian.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yep, and today's just going to be a general chit chat stream, but the main focus point we're going to have is, believe it or not, and the big thing this week, DC Future State. And unlike a lot of y'all out there, it feels like myself, Ian, Perch, your boy Zach, Nerdette, maybe a few others are the only ones that are excited for this. So, I'll get into why I'm excited, but why are you excited?
Well, I have fond memories of the tie-ins for Convergence and some of the tie-ins for Future's End. They were sort of fun alternate futures that gave a spotlight to characters and relationships that weren't getting a lot of spotlight in the main titles. So, of course, for me, it's going to be Stephanie Brown, but she featured in both Convergence and Future's End as Batgirl, and she had relationships with Barbara. That. Yeah, with Barbara and Tim and with Cassandra, and I thought that was really cool because she wasn't really getting those relationships highlighted in the main continuity at either time, either in 2014 with Future's End or in 2015 in Convergence. And as we know for a fact that Stephanie has 2 stories coming out in Future State with Robin Eternal, where she's going to be paired with Tim in a train heist, and in Batgirls, a backup story for the next Batman, which she and Cassandra are going to be doing some kind of prison heist. So 2 heist stories with Stephanie, and she's getting her relationships with the classic characters she usually has back.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm most excited about.
I still remember the Convergence one. That one was such a good one. And how both finally got the, brought her and Tim back together, and yet at least implied stuff between her and Cassandra.
Well, they were definitely friends and roommates.
Oh, yeah, but some people like to read that there was a bit more to it.
Well, people like to read all kinds of weird things. I still remember there's a large contingent of fans that still claim that Tim and Cassandra Cain got together at the end of Gates of Gotham, and I look at them like crazy. Yeah,
I've heard that before, and I never got that. It's just her saying, I always like to hear in Gotham. That's all she said.
Yeah, but apparently fans are really into the Tim Cash shipping.
Well, to be fair, given what Fabian Nicieza did during his Red Robin run, and he included her among many of the other girls who seemed to keep on wanting Tim's V card. That didn't help.
Oh, my goodness. I really loved the first year of Red Robin. It was such a good story. But then Fabian took over, and he just played so many harem plots. It's like, will Tim lose his virginity to an evil assassin or an undercover cop / gangster girl? And I'm just like, none of these plots are fun because these characters aren't good.
And he started to push Tim into being more and more paranoid like Bruce.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was so frustrating because the first year was all about him starting paranoid, and he has to reconnect with people and stop being as paranoid. But then Nicieza spends the next year undoing all that.
Although I did love the little joke about they changed the password and make it a reference to a cousin Oliver. You remember that?
I mean, there were definitely good things about the Nicieza Red Robin run. I just feel as a whole, it was a little disappointing after what came before.
Right. Oh, I will agree with that. I still say my favorite bit still has to be the point where I forget if it was in that or in the backer one, but where you have Stephanie take down that one assassin, and Tim is just like, holy. That was a bit I always loved. I think that was in Red Robin, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in the crossover Red Robin 8 through 12 collision.
Yeah, going into the final issue of that first year. But I love that bit. Just Tim just like, holy, like he did not expect that.
And of course, Marcus Toe did most of the art for that run, and it is such a gorgeous series.
Did he still do much artwork lately?
I mean, isn't he still on Excalibur?
I don't know. I don't read much Marvel.
Yeah, he was on Excalibur with Teenie Howard.
Ah,
And before that, he was doing X-Men Blue, but that was twice month shipping, so he couldn't be on it too much. But he was on it.
right. Oh, so he's in at Marvel lately. That's why I haven't
Yeah,
seen him.
yeah, he's mostly
Okay,
been at
that
Marvel.
explains a lot. But yeah, but again, with Future State, though, like I said, I am interested in it. But what really gets to me is how I see and I don't know if you saw my rant video a while ago. Did you?
Yeah, I took a look. I mean, the one about Future State, right?
Yeah, that whole rant I went on.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure a number of you out there have seen it too, but for those of you who didn't, I just go off on how there's so many people who just start complaining about how it's all woke. And the weirdest thing now is everything they're doing here has basically proven Perch and some of the other guys right that this was never going to be a permanent change, going against what Bleeding Cool said. It was always meant to be temporary, but they take it like, oh, DC's quadrupling down on wokeness. They're betting the farm on wokeness. When it's like, no, they're not. They're just trying to make money out of what they had built up already.
And honestly, so I have two comments on that. My first one is, I am really curious to know how much this has changed, because Jim Lee, during Fandom Part 2 said, we're not doing 5G. And then we come out with Future State. I'm like, this sounds exactly like 5G to me. Except without the timeline stuff that was very confusing. Like, I still don't understand how those timelines were supposed to work. But
I think that's the big thing. I think that by dropping the timeline stuff, making this not really important to reworking the continuity and everything, it's why it's not important.
And the second question I have is, like, okay, so what's so woke about this?
They're saying all the different changes. You're having a double amputee Flash. I find it interesting.
That's super cool, though.
I
don't know. I'm an Oracle fan from way back, so exactly. Disabled representation's awesome.
Exactly, and it's like, why can't that work? Why is that such a bad thing? You have this other female Flash, Jessie Quick, Iris West. Did I go on?
Not at all. I mean, I didn't. And the idea that I have to admit, I was just talking about the new Wonder Woman, and I'm a little disappointed that she's not like an Amazon, but maybe she will.
Amazon-like. She's Amazon-like, though.
But I don't know. I just wish that I like the Amazons, and I wish they would get more development. So new Amazon characters are interesting to me, and I don't see why an Amazon couldn't be resilient. At least I don't know how the new Amazons work, but the old Amazons, George Perez from 1986, they used to be the reincarnated spirits of women who were, killed or abused. So that's all over the world. So there's nothing preventing an Amazon from being black or Brazilian or white or Greek or anything,
Exactly. But I say this, I mean, at least we're not getting what people kept claiming and what Bleeding Cool kept claiming we're going to get with that guy who was going to be Wonder Woman. Remember that?
I do remember that rumor.
I don't remember that's what everyone in this community kept doubling and tripling down, saying, this is what we're getting. This is what we're getting. When it's like, because Steve Orlando made a post, that doesn't mean that was going to be it. And clearly, with this, it's not what we were going to get at all.
What did Steve Orlando say?
No, he's the one who posted that initial picture, I think. He was like, it was showing it from one of the artists he was working with, and I think he was just posting it for fun. That guy dressed as Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay.
But Being Cool took it off and saying, this is going to be the 5G Wonder Woman.
That's so weird.
I know.
I'm like, I will admit, I deliberately avoid clicking on Bleeding Cool because I don't want to encourage them, and I think they start drama for no good reason.
Agreed.
But I am not at all surprised that they would do that.
Oh, exactly. And again, they just did it to set people off. Now that you also have all the stuff coming up with John Riley's Batman, and one thing that really I find shows off that they're just backpedaling was how you have Rich Johnson saying, oh yeah, remember, he kept saying this is going to be permanent. He was saying this for well over months. But eventually he then recently said, oh, from what I heard, the DO said, oh, Batman's going to be black so long as I'm around. And then that was 10 days before he was let go. It's like, wait, What? That doesn't make 10 days before. That goes against everything you were saying.
Well, given that DiDio, I'm almost positive that DiDio is one of the big people who pushed for Dick Grayson to stay Rick for 2 freaking years.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
surprised that he would make a really stupid decision like that, but I mean, he was also
But at the
fired.
same time, though, he's also not the kind of guy who wants to ruin the character that much entirely.
Well, I mean, I don't think a Black Batman is ruining the characters.
No,
I just think
maybe
that
not ruin him, but he's.
I would say Rick is pretty close to ruining Dick Grayson, but
Oh yeah, but no, I'm saying no, replacing Bruce and saying it's going to be permanent. That didn't make much sense from given DiDio's track record.
Yeah, I mean, DiDio's thing is always trying to bring it back to what he thought was classic.
So yeah, that doesn't make a lick of sense. What makes more sense, and it looks like they're going to even with this future state, is whatever is popular and sells the best will end up probably be carried over some way, shape, or form. Whatever doesn't is just going to be like, oh, that was a thing.
Well, and another thing is setting it in the future means that anything that carries over is purely voluntary. Like you don't have to carry, unlike like a normal event where you have a big, main series like Metal. Well, Metal is doing it too because Metal's in the future as well. The Death Metal, I mean.
Yeah, we don't know where things are. Where's that?
I still have no clue how that's supposed to impact.
What I think everything that's happening in Death Metal, we don't get the ramifications until the ending of Death Metal, and that's what leads into the start of Future State. That's because I think in the 1027, that Dan Jurgens story, I think that was meant to be the ending of Death Metal, throwing a tizzy and everything.
Yeah.
To him, I gotta say, no way in hell Tomasi's going to be made editor-in-chief. I'm sorry. And that's another thing I gotta say is, and I'm not thinking.
Well, if Tomasi had wanted to be EIC, he would have stayed in the editorial track. I think he makes more money as a writer, so I don't think he wants to be editor.
Exactly, he was a great editor, but now I'm not saying this about any of the guys in the chats or anything, but in general, when I hear people saying we should fire everybody, fire them all, and then just give all the jobs to Vendetti or Tomasi and all that, it's like, guys, I hate to say it, great writers as they are, they don't sell the big numbers.
No, they don't. They sell consistent numbers.
Oh,
but they don't.
Consistent, but they don't go for the big ones. And that's the downside. They don't sell the big, huge numbers out there that would make them worthy of it.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
Well, you got your I see Venditti, and honestly, I'm surprised that Tynan is sort of a big name, but he's got enormous hustle, so I can see himself promoting, just getting his ideas.
And big ideas too.
But Venditti and Tomasi are much more like Jurgens or. I think Jurgens is actually the only one left from the 90s who consistently writes.
He's a workhorse.
Yeah, and he consistently is enjoyable. Like his Beyond and even his terrible Status Quo for Nightwing didn't prevent him from writing enjoyable stories in that.
And the way he kind of took the ball around with it, included the Court of Vowels and everything, and what led to resolving it all, it made sense. It didn't feel like an asshole. It felt like it actually worked with what Lobdell had started.
Yeah, and he carefully laid the groundwork all the way through. Like it was well crafted, even though I'm frustrated as heck that they made him stick with that status quo for so long.
True, but I think they probably were going to drop it sooner if Joker War wasn't going to come up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little awkward because I think they clearly were willing to give it up, but then they're like, but it would be so cool if he came back in Joker War. And everyone's like, why does he have to come back in Joker War? Bring him back now.
I know, but I think the original we're going to was the Court of Owls stuff. I think that was going to be the point, but then they decided, nope, wait, stretch it out just a little bit longer.
Yeah. So another question I have for you about Future State.
Yeah.
So we're having an interesting experiment in publication. So there's no main event line, which is interesting for a line-wide event. But they're doing these 3, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they're doing 6 oversized anthology. So Batman, Superman, Wonder
Let me
Woman, and
check.
Justice League.
Let me check. Let me check with my list because I actually do. I make a big text folder that goes along with all that. But yeah, you have the There's only two 7.99 ones. Future State, Superman, Worlds of War, and
The next Batman.
Yeah, the next Batman. Then you have
And you have some $5.99 ones for Dark Detective, and I think
Superman and
probably
Metropolis.
yeah.
Hold on, I'm just double checking.
What's
You
Wonder
have
Woman Immortal or whatever it is? What's that? Is that a
Green
normal?
Let me see. I think that's a $5.99. You have Green Lantern, Justice League, yeah, Immortal Wonder Woman. Oh, I know there's at least no, that's Dark Detective. I get Suicide Squad. Yeah, those are the $5.99 ones.
I think Immortal Wonder Woman is too.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agreed with that one. That one is.
And then Justice League Family, we're gonna get Justice League, and the Green Lanterns and Suicide.
Yeah, all the rest are $3.99 then.
Right. Those are just 2-issue minis, or there's one 3-issue mini, and I think there's a couple one-shots.
One 3-issue mini. That's the Imperious Lex, and that gets resolved the very first week of March.
So, but here's my question for you: what do you feel about this? Because it is more money, and it's they're all twice a month, so you're getting 4 issues, and that's let's see, $8 times 4 is $32. So that's $32 for 4 issues. But you are getting 3 stories in each one.
One main story and a couple of and 2 short stories.
Right. And they're actually alternating. So the first issue of Batman has Outsiders and Arkham Knights, and the second issue has Batgirls and Gotham City Sirens, and they're going to go back and forth throughout the 4.
Yep.
So
I say if it's a big enough page count, like those other anniversary issues and everything, I'd be all for that. If it's a good bang for my buck, it's fine.
I agree. I wonder, though, do you think that'll turn off people? Or do you think people will be like, oh, this is a thick book, so I'm okay with paying more
I
for
think
it?
so long as they don't do it twice a month. I can accept that right now. On a regular basis, I'm not sure. But the bigger thing is, and this is where my issue would be, is so long as these stories are actually have some levels of importance going out of Future Stage, as in they're not like the Walmart books or all those stuff where there are a whole bunch of stories that don't amount to anything. No, or even if it's just one story that amounts to things and the rest are just little stories. No, I'm not going to do that on a monthly basis. They have to actually matter in the continuity.
Well, for me, I collected Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman for the first year and a half, because that's when you had, your Wonder Woman by Connor and Palmiotti, your Superman by King, and your Batman by Bendis.
I got all that. I got all the when they collected them in their own separate issues.
Right. Well, I actually collected it from Walmart because I liked reading the reprints too. But my question would be, the reason I did that was because they didn't necessarily connect to main continuity. Bendis claims that Batman universe is connected to main continuity, but there is no way that actually makes sense.
No, especially with how he handled the White Lantern. That made no sense.
Well, it's not even the White Lantern. It's the fact that this had Nightwing, and Nightwing, it doesn't fit. The timeline doesn't fit at all. But it was still a really fun story, especially with the art by Nick Darrington.
Oh, yeah. I won't argue that.
But the reason I liked that was because you had, your 12-issue story, and that was connected. It was all one big story from issue to issue. So it made sense to subscribe to that.
Someone just said the Batman universe is connected to Ginny Hex.
Yes, I am aware of that. However, the timeline doesn't work because Ginny Hex is supposed to have showed up in Young Justice just a few weeks after Batman Universe, but that's still smack in the middle of when Nightwing is Rick.
That's true. That is true. But like I said, though, I do. But again, for little stories, that's fine. But doing it on a monthly basis, and if all the stories are like that, where they're just little adventures but don't amount to anything, I'm not going to get those in the long term.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I think that maybe the way they're doing future state's a good way, because they're basically doing them as minis. So we know that each story is connected to the next one. So there's a reason to collect the whole thing.
For 2 months, yes. But again, as an ongoing, no.
Well, what if it replaced? What if instead of having to buy Batman and Batgirl, you bought Batman with a Batgirl backup?
Oh,
How do you feel about that?
Basically they're going back to how things used to be pre-crisis back in the day.
Right.
You had
where you had your main story and
detective,
your backup
PA.
story.
Yeah, that would be fine. Again, if it's an ongoing narrative, that's fine. But again, if it's just a bunch of little stories that don't amount to anything at all, no.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The digital first have been really a mixed bag.
Oh
So,
yeah,
like,
after they were done with those first 6 issues for each one, it became such a mixed bag. It's not even funny.
So, like, I would say Batman Gotham Knights number 12, where you had all of 5 of the Robins, Dick, Jason, Tim, Steph, and Damian. That was a really cool story. But then you had like all these one shots about like Deathstroke fighting Supergirl, which had nothing to do with Batman. And I'm still confused about why they put that in there. But Robert Venditti did a whole 11 issue arc of Superman in the digital first. And I really wish they'd done that.
I love that.
Yeah. And the thing is, it was all, one shots.
To the 90s. It felt like it with a little bit of a connected element still with
Right.
Rex.
The last 2 issues of each set that he did tied it all together, and then the final 2 issues of his run went all the way back to the first one. So it was all this one big thing, but you could collect any issue that looked interesting to you. So it didn't feel like you had to, but it rewarded more collection.
I would say this: something like that is perfectly fine if it's on an ongoing basis. But it ends up being how the digital books have gone on since, where it's just a bunch of random stories just tossed in. No, not at all.
I mean,
that.
I'm with Perch. Perch is like, I don't understand why they're trying to get away from the subscriber mentality, because like video games and business software and Netflix and all the streaming business, they're all about the subscription. So why would comics try and get away from the subscription? What they should do is figure out how to get more people subscribed instead of, we just want casual people to buy stuff every now and then. That's not how you get.
I think that's what DC's trying. I think DC's trying that. I think that's what they're trying with these digital comics.
Yes, but they're not. I like the fact that they're pushing hard on digital, but I feel like they need to do serialization. Now they can do one and done with serialization like what Venditti did, but you have to reward people for subscribing. Right now, I'm like picking things that look interesting. I'm not subscribing to the issues themselves.
Oh yeah, I mean, in my case, there's only 2 and 3 that I've been getting ongoing. Batman: The Adventures Continues, which just wrapped up. Although, given how there's now an 8th issue added on the physical copy, there might be another story coming up.
Right, but that was an ongoing. Like it was serialized.
It was serialized, but it was a limited series. That's the thing. And I noticed that each one of these are going to be ending around the 14 issue mark. Like Deceased, that one's going to be ending at issue 14 soon. And I'm pretty sure
about 14. Like I don't understand this. This 14. That's such a weird number.
Because it leads to 7 issue physical minis. That's why.
Oh, why 7 instead of 6 or 8? 7 just seems odd.
That is true. That is odd, but I think that's just because you go a little bit over half a year. You're 1 month over half a year.
Huh.
I don't know. It's probably some weird thing their marketing has determined. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I really wish we knew more about that. Because, when you find out the logistics, like Perch has been really helpful in figuring out things like why do they change artists on series? And he said, well, it's because they have a budget for every title and artists have a certain page rate depending on their experience and their sales. So you'll get a big artist and you'll have a certain amount of money set aside for that big artist to do your first couple of issues. And then you'll get an artist who is not as expensive and you have because you can't pay the main artist for all of the issues. So I love that kind of behind the scenes information on how comics are made.
Yep, and I think that will explain even more about with Bendis. He was already expensive as it is, but then he would keep on wanting the big name artist on his book.
Yeah. And that's why you see things like you have big name artists just doing like 5 to 10 pages in an issue. And it's very Like, it's really
Oh, there's
pretty, the
that
art that they do, but it's very disjointed sometimes.
at first, but then eventually became John Romita Jr. the whole time, and Ivan Rice the whole time. Who, well, I don't think Rice is, like, he's still a big name, but I don't know if he's like one of the more expensive artists. And I don't know what JR does charges these days.
I am curious because JR I personally like, but he does seem to get a lot of negative pushback. So I wonder what the sales
I
are
don't
like.
get that either. I never understand why he gets the negative pushback. I mean, a lot of times it's rough, yes, but
I think he gets the negative pushback because people. I mean, I came into comics in the mid 2000s, so I read all of his Spider-Man, and I love that run of Spider-Man with J. Michael Straczynski. It's so good. And John Romita Jr. is specifically so good with Spider-Man. He really gets you into the feelings of Spider-Man and Mary Jane. And he does a great villain, of course, because he's got that sense of ugliness that's perfect for a villain.
But he also does a very good job at doing a Kirby-esque style, but still make it his own. Like when he did...
And he also is a fantastic storyteller. Like if you saw the most recent action where he has, the Eradicator from Earth 3 and Connor coming at each other, and it's just like this widescreen panels of them at the very end of the pages, and as it gets down to the bottom of the page, they're getting closer to color, and then they hit each other, and it's just like, that's amazing storytelling.
Yeah, I remember. You remember his the last Fantastic Four story he did with Stan Lee? He created a character, the Adjudicator, who you felt was ripped right out of Kirby.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that classic feeling to him.
I mean, it does look muddy. Sometimes it does look muddy, but in a good way, if you ask me.
Well, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
I would say this. It's comparable to Frank Miller when he doesn't have an inker. I think that's what it is. Let's be honest.
Well, and it's also kind of odd because they're using Klaus Janson, who is an inker for Frank Miller. So there is definitely that rough line that Janson favors.
Exactly. I mean, look at during Dark Knight, the Dark Knight 3, the Master Race. Look at how that, and except for the one or two that Frank inked himself, it felt like you had old Frank back.
Yeah, and those had some really interesting storytelling and some really zany ideas that were pure Frank Miller.
Yep, and yet
the Green Lantern with the hand that's not connected to him, that was hilarious and awesome.
Although I still don't get the Batmite. What the hell was up with the Batmite?
I've never understood Batmite, but
no, but you have this little Batmite hanging around Green Lantern just randomly. It's like, why is that there?
Probably because Frank wanted to draw him.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure. I gotta also say this. I'm a little confused on what was her name? The commissioner, Yendel.
Oh, Yendel.
Did she die or because her captain?
Yeah, I still haven't quite figured that out. I think she died, but I don't know for sure.
A transfusion. She said she feels like what was her name? Bruno blood on her and gave her a transfusion, and yet her last panel is she is dead. It's like, wait, what?
It was a little confusing. I agree.
But I would also say, though, it was so good to have Frank finally have this arrogant ass of a Batman admit, yeah, Superman's better than me. Always has been. Yeah, you can tell I'm a bigger Superman fan than I am Batman.
So going back to my question about the anthology, so you would be against the idea of the main Batman book becoming a really big anthology?
I wouldn't. Again, it depends on, as long as the main story is worth it and it's continuous, and the other backup stories at least have some continuous story arc, like things used to do pre-Crisis, I would be fine. If they're just a bunch of random ass stories, no, not at all.
Yeah, okay, so I agree with that. What do you think the price point should be? Because I would say at least $5 if you're getting a 20-page story and a 10-page backup. But what do you think?
I would agree with that one. Now, if it ends up being a bunch more stories like that's 80 or 100 pages, then I would go for the $8.99.
Yeah, well, I mean, 80-page, they're charging $10 for the holiday anthologies.
Yeah, or 100 pages, given what they did with 100 pages, they just went up $1 to $10.
Yeah, I mean, I have bought a lot of those 100-page for the celebrations, like Detective Comics 1000 and 1027 and stuff, because those are actually a really great deal in terms of pages. The one thing I am disappointed about is they really are a bunch of one-shots. They don't connect to stuff. And oftentimes my favorites are going to be something like in the Robin, you had the Grayson story that connects to the Grayson series. And then you had the Stephanie Brown story that connected to the War Games stuff. And you had Tim Drake that connected to James Tynion's Detective Comics run. Like, they were connected to something. And I wish they would do more of that kind of thing, because I think the randomness of the anthology can be a turnoff for the subscriber mentality.
That's exactly what my problem would be, if it would be the randomness of it. Again, if bringing back creators and the stuff is clearly tying into wrapping up plot points or loose ends or just tying into their old prior run, that'd be fine. It's like when in do you remember the Superman Batman book the pre-New 52 version? You remember that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you remember how you had that during that brief time you had Michael Green you had Green and Johnson working on it. They're the ones who did the kryptonite, where they gather up kryptonite, or you have the one in the story where Superman became normal and Batman gained superpower, the Superman's powers and all that, and he went a little crazy.
I don't think I remember that one.
Oh. Well, there was also a point where Superman gets exposed to silver magic kryptonite, and he basically acts like he's high, and he sees all the Justice League as chippy-eyed versions of themselves. But then later on, because Mixie saw this and liked it, he decided to take it into a world where those chippy versions existed. And then by the end of it, the chippy Superman died. Well, during Superman Batman number 75, the two guys came back and did a little story where it revealed, you have chippy Batman being all like, he died, Robin. What's death mean? Is he sleeping? No, he means he's not coming back. And really, if he's not coming back, why is he waking up? It turned out he was asleep. Basically, so in other words, they reversed what they did, but they did it in a way that matched with the logic of that universe. But you get what I mean? But they did it in a 2-page little backup story that resolved it.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the Black Mirror? Originally, it was your main story with Dick Grayson as Batman and your backup story with James Gordon as Commissioner Gordon.
Until they eventually conjoined and met up.
Right. But the first 2 issues, it stopped really quickly, but the first 2 issues were intertwined. So I recently reread it, and in the first issue with Dick, he's seeing these birds of prey, these exotic birds of prey wandering around the city, and he's like, what's going on? And then in the backup, Jim Gordon goes to the zoo and finds out that James Jr. has let the birds out. And so that kind of connection is awesome.
That is awesome. Yes, I agree. They should be.
And I didn't realize that, because this is the first time I'd read it in single issues. I'd actually read it only in trade before. So I didn't realize that those things, because in the trade, they actually collect the backups as one chapter instead of doing them where they appeared in the issues. Which, now that I've read it in single issues, I'm a little pissed off, because it actually makes so much more sense if you read it in issue order.
It does. And I remember other stories that do that, where the backup story kind of, intercepts or connects.
So I am.
If they do that, that's perfectly fine.
I am hopeful that these miniseries will actually do something similar, because they've gotten enough time. They've clearly been working on this for a while. That reminds me, another question for you. What do you think about the branding for Future State? I really like it, because it feels like it's got a thematic identity and it's got a cool futuristic font. What do you think about that?
Wait, what do you mean the branding? You mean just like the logo and everything?
Yeah, the logos and the way they've laid out the covers.
I don't usually think about stuff like that, to be perfectly honest. That stuff
really?
just goes whoosh right over my head.
I love that kind of stuff, because to me it adds value to the physical item. So do you remember back when, I mean, the obvious example is like the acetate covers or the foil covers or the lenticular covers. So those are connected to each other in a way, so they have a connection value even more than just the physical comic itself. You're like, oh, this is my September 2018 month where it was all acetate covers, and this is my September 2017 month.
Or better yet, the death of the family. The first covers, each one of their tie-ins would have the Joker face, a little flap over.
Right. I mean, that kind of thing, I think, makes it more fun to buy the physical comics.
Again, to a point.
I mean, it's not like... It's not like why you buy it, but it makes you feel better about buying it when you're already planning on buying it, if that makes sense.
It does. I gotta say, though, one thing I will always remember, and I wish others would do this. Did you ever buy the Booster Gold series that was post 52?
No, I did not.
Jeff Johns and Jeff Katz and Dan Jurgens.
I've been meaning to read that because one of my buddies on Discord is really into Booster Gold. They're like his favorite character. But I've really only read... so I've read Booster Shot, which was the Action Comics when Jurgens was writing it. Right. And I read the Convergence Booster Gold series. And I liked those okay, but honestly,
that wraps up everything Jurgens was doing with the character, actually.
Right, that's what I hear. But I have to admit, I'm not a time travel guy, so Booster's a difficult character for me to get into.
Well, I'll say this. What I love, though, is that during that series, especially during the Jeff Johns one, and our last issue was basically a tie-in to DC 1 Million. And earlier you had a 0-issue tie-in, and they actually had it was a 0 issue. The cover was played up like it was tying into 0 issue because Booster never officially tied into it. And during the story, they actually do go there during the events of it all. So it plays up like a legit tie-in. And the DC 1 Million, we meet the Booster Gold of DC 1 Million named Peter Platinum, who is even more self-absorbed and a jerk than Booster. To the point where Booster feels like, that's my legacy? But again, I love it. The cover and everything was done in the design. And I'm just like, oh man, I wish we could have gotten more of them tying into other crossovers. Like Millennium, or if they tied into Armageddon 2001.
Well, have you heard the theory that Grant Morrison tied All-Star Superman into DC 1 Million?
Oh, well, that's kind of obvious when you take into a lot of the plot points.
Yeah, well, I've never read DC 1 Million, so someone had to point that out to me. But
I could tell you, yes, especially when you have you have that one one of those futures, all those different future Supermen, when he goes back in time to Paul Kent and everything. Yeah, those were all from DC 1 Million. You also, even the fact that Superman would be in the sun and eventually come out was from DC 1 Million. You had the Chronivore was mentioned in DC 1 Million. This is our first time seeing it. And you have Solaris, the sentient sun, ends up being a big part of DC 1 Million.
Yeah. I think that's something I love about creators who really think about, their ongoing legacy. Chuck Dixon did this a lot too. He would just seed characters in Detective Comics that he'd pull out for like little events, or he'd always have the same patrol officers be the ones who find a crime and so forth. But it gives the world a sense that even though these stories aren't necessarily connected, the world's connected. So I think that's very cool.
And I think Tynion's one of those who still continues to do that.
I hope so. He sometimes does and he sometimes doesn't. So far his Batman run hasn't felt super connected to his Detective Comics run, and I really wish he would do something with that.
Right. But now here's the big thing I got to ask you. Where do you stand on with all of this? When people are complaining about, going back to what we were initially talking about, people say, oh, it's woke. Oh, it's this and that. Do you think people are really thinking that? Or do you think they're just doing it for the clicks or for their, to try and continue to play up with their the commenters and viewers?
I honestly am not 100%. sure, because I don't like going to drama videos, so I haven't watched most of those.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just really confused about where they're getting it. Like, it doesn't feel like they're trying to go super woke. It just feels like a typical flash forward to the future pulp adventure thing.
What I say is, I think a lot of people have either they're dealing with so much of the wokeness that they have forgotten that how well DC's been able to handle their legacy, and they're just assuming they're just all going to be like Marvel, just
Well,
slap
and
up
there's
a
also the
woke.
fact that Andy Curry almost certainly was deliberately feeding Bleeding Cool these ideas to provoke people into that idea.
Oh, and I agree completely with that. I once I heard about with Andy Curry and all that, it was just like, oh yeah, he was doing this to deliberately tick people off, even though it ended up being detrimental to DC. That
And
tells
to
you
his
he didn't.
career, so lol.
Oh yeah, and that tells you that he didn't care about working at DC, which explains so much. Like I've always said, he was one of those editors who was so lazy. The only time he would ever get involved and encourage you is if you shared his politics, and otherwise, so many times he just got lucky that he got editing projects that ended up being big hits like Harleen.
Yeah.
Because you're looking
And
at, you're like, he didn't do anything there.
I am actually really curious about various things because some things are. I mean, it's all because of the relationship an editor and writer has. So Elisa Whitney had a really good relationship with Neil Gaiman, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
she was editing Sandman, and that's how she's gotten a lot of her jobs. Mark Doyle had a really good relationship with Scott Snyder, and that's how he got the Batman editor job. Same thing with Jamie Rich. He had a really good relationship with Tom King. That's how he got his editing job.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who was that one digital editor recently that got let go? Has been in the industry for years. What's
Bobby
her
Chase.
name? Bobby Chase. She was one of the few people that could handle Peter David. You do know that, right?
Oh
That she
boy.
was always been one. Like the moment she got let off of Hulk is when things really went downhill fast.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unsung thing. Like Chris Priest did a lot of editing, although he didn't like it as much, obviously.
Oh, you want to know the funny thing about Christopher Priest? His
There's a
name?
lot.
No. You know about the joke about his name?
Yes.
You do know it. Well, I would say it anyway to anyone who does it.
Yeah, go for it.
His full name is James Christopher Osley, but he eventually at one point said I believe he said if his wife divorced him, he would have officially become a priest, and thus when that happened, he did that. He changed his name he took his middle name and changed his last name to Priest.
Well, and then he realized that he was accidentally copying the British sci-fi novelist, and so now he just calls himself Priest. He's such a funny dude.
Oh, he is. And one thing I just so like about him is that you can tell you can figure out what his politics are, but he doesn't care. He is one of those who just keeps it out. You know what I mean?
Well, I would actually disagree. Like his Deathstroke got into some really harsh criticism of U.S. foreign policy, and his Vampirella is actually dealing a lot with racial politics and history because he's dealing with Draculina and Pantha. So these are characters who aren't white,
but he's still doing it in a way that takes pot shots at being political correctness.
Right. Well, and his thing is he's always interested in humanizing. So he never has that straw racist or straw misogynist, that person who just hates people and they don't have a reason. Like he made Deathstroke's wife, ex-wife, Addie. She has real prejudices against the black kids who join Deathstroke's team, but he never tries to say, and because of that, she is capable of all the evil in the world. Like he's got a real compassion to him, even when talking about really morally negative things. So I think that's why Priest does well with politics.
Exactly.
It's not a binary for him.
Yeah. And especially when you just look at, again, you look at so much of his work. That's why, get this. Apparently he was going to be the editor-in-chief of Milestone, but personal problems forced him to scale down his involvements.
Yeah.
I wish that happened. I
wish they'd bring him back to Milestone now.
Oh, unfortunately, they gave the writing job to the guy who took his Black Panther and completely.
I know. I'm not a Reggie Hudlin fan.
I know. I mean, that's the thing, though. Priest is such a greatness, but he basically made Black Panther one of the most awesome badasses, but without going into Mary Sue territories.
Yeah.
Hudlin then came in and decided, oh, he's perfect. Mary Sue. Oh, yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. Hudlin, I just don't think is
Hudlin
that great a writer.
recognized by the Hudlin's more recognized by the mainstream, whereas the fans prefer, at least the fans who actually read Priest Run, always would prefer Priest. But again,
Yeah.
Hudlin
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. And I still remember when Hudlin took over Marvel Knight Spider-Man. Good Lord, that was bad.
That was not a great run.
He had that scroll that acted like he was Superman and everything. You remember that?
Oh boy. That was leading into Civil War, and that got real rough.
He also was doing the other story stuff. Those were the only issues I did not like, were Hudlin's.
Are you excited about the upcoming U.S. Agent miniseries that Priest is doing? Because I think that looks real cool.
Well, I do. I actually do think it's cool. I'm not going to buy it. I don't buy much Marvels. The only one I buy lately is Runaways.
Who's on art on Runaways these days?
I don't know who's been doing the artwork. I just know that Rainbow Royale is still doing, or Roswell is still doing it, and it won't pick up again until next year for some reason.
That's weird. I mean, for Marvel, I'm buying Amazing Spider-Man, but I'm not buying tie-ins, and I'm buying Black Widow, and I'm planning to buy U.S. Agent. So that's all I buy from Marvel.
Right.
Although I did start reading some of Zdarsky's, like I went back to the beginning of Zdarsky's run on Daredevil, and I was actually pretty impressed.
What have you been thinking about Spencer's Spider-Man?
That's rough, because I really loved the first year.
Do you think he's falling into the same Dan Slott trap, but without getting the big ego about it?
I think Spencer... I am really curious because it feels like he had some interesting ideas, but Marvel made him spin off Mary Jane, and I think that's really derailed the plot, for me at least.
Yeah, what bothers me is... Sorry.
Thankfully, she's finally coming back. She's going to be in one of the tie-ins for this Last Remains. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Last Remains is going to lead into the final year or so. So I don't know how many arcs, but I think we're coming up on the climax of his run.
Yeah. Now here's the big thing though with Last Remains and the villain that just got revealed. Just blank on his name.
Harry Osborn.
Well, the name he went under.
Oh, Kindred.
Now I gotta say though, given what we last saw Harry, this doesn't make sense.
Well, I really want to know how he got these powers, because these powers are insane. He's got really crazy powers.
I noticed Wes and Perch, they seem to, I don't know if they kept up with it, because they are under the implication that this could have been Harry from because they think it goes back to One More Day. I don't know how, unless this is the One More Day Harry somehow still carried over. Well,
I mean, a lot of what Peter's doing seems to be wrapped up in the marriage, because he wants to propose to Mary Jane. Mm-hmm. And like it really does feel like that. And the fact that Mephisto was all tied up with Mephisto, what's his actually name?
Wait, what do you mean Mephisto?
Who's the demon they make the deal with?
That was Mephisto.
Oh, okay. So it was Mephisto. So Mephisto, he's got insane powers, reality bending powers. So One More Day was how they brought back Harry, because I think he was dead before that.
Yeah, he was pretty much dead. Yeah.
So since the theory that I have is that this is all connected to One More Day, I could definitely see that Harry being brought back by Mephisto could maybe realize that he now has demonic powers. So I could see that working, even though he didn't. So you could say he didn't realize he had them before, and now he has.
Well,
so
what happened to the kid?
Slots run.
Yeah, but he went off with his kid.
Right, but when's the last time we saw Harry in Slot's run?
Not since then. I think the only time we saw him again was during that American Soldier miniseries where he finally confronted what was his name? One of the twins that Norman had with Gwen, the son. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Betty was no. What was it?
No.
Liz?
No. I said the twins that Norman had with Gwen.
Oh, those.
Gabrielle.
Oh my gosh, those guys were nuts.
But,
And nobody likes that story. Even JMS in the Marvel 1000 made that joke about how everyone has regrets and his regret is sins past.
I know.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, Gabrielle, the brother, he came back and he was in the American Son outfit. Slott did not write it, but it was one of the miniseries that came out at some point.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the last time we saw Harry.
But I don't know. I think that Spencer's run is starting to kick up in high gear. I like the first year a lot, so that was
I love
just started getting things started.
I love
and
how
then
it fixed Felicia.
That was such a great arc. Oh my goodness.
And so especially because I'll say this, I loved it because I knew that was what my explanation was for her problem. She knew part of it was because all of her character development came because Peter married to Mary Jane. You take that off the board, yeah, she never grew as a character. But yet having it be that part of her knew and it was eating at her, I loved that.
Yeah. It was and that whole arc, because it also had Mary Jane discovering the support group for superheroes. It was just such a good arc.
Yep, and then also, I gotta say, I felt like so much of that first year was reversing Slott's run. Like him killing off Craven. Him killing off Craven because hardly anyone did with it. Because that's what Slott would do. He would do something, bring a character, bring him back, and saying, "Here you guys, have at it."
Well, to be fair to Slott, and I hate to be fair to Slott because I really hate his run. It was actually other writers who brought back Craven. Slott wasn't really involved in the Grim Hunt stuff.
Oh, I thought he was.
No, that was just before he took over with Big Time.
My bad then.
Yeah. I'm happy to blame Slott for stuff he did, but he didn't do that.
Okay. My mistake. I gotta say that also, I'm curious on the fact that he's finally going back to that reckoning war idea of his, but I'm now wishing he's not.
Wait,
you remember that? The Reckoning War, something he set up way back during his She-Hulk run.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Dan Slott.
Oh, I'm not reading any Dan Slott right now.
No. But apparently at one point they made a reference to the Reckoning War. Something that did you ever read his She-Hulk run?
No, I haven't read any
She-Hulk.
It is
so good. It is so good. His She-Hulk
better
run.
Than Peter David's?
Wait, you mean before Peter David? Actually, remember, Peter David took over after Slott.
Right, but did you like Peter David or Dan Slott better?
I'll be honest, I never had a chance to read it because, unfortunately, any of the trades I can't find anywhere.
Yeah, that's such a frustrating thing about 90s comics.
I've looked up and down every convention I go to. I can never find those freaking trades ever. I can find the first one, but I can't find any of the others.
Ugh.
But yeah, though, his She-Hulk run, there was a point where, for a brief time, She-Hulk is made filling in for the Living Tribunal. Don't ask. It's a zany story, but there's a point where one race is saying that they like their privacy. They enjoy their privacy. And they don't want anyone to know anything about their sector of space. And yet they have their watcher of that section is always watching them. And he has to report in to everyone. And they don't want that. And they feel, so She-Hulk comes up with the idea of, because he can't stop observing, he said, okay then, how about that? He can still observe you, but he has his mouth removed. So he can't explain it and tell anyone. And they agreed to that. But then it turns out, not long after that decision, this one guy decided he slaughters that entire species, abducts that watcher who can't tell any of his others, and they know now that he can't say anything. So that and he's like, I have this whole sector of space unobserved. I can make my own, this big battle, and there will be a reckoning. And then later on, we see her taken to the future, seeing the end of the Reckoning War, where you actually see the Watchers taking up weapons and everything, and they fight. And they had led to a fight and everything. So yeah, he was building this up for quite a while. And then
Yeah,
he
that's
got
one
into
thing that a
Spider-Man.
lot of people say about Slott is that he does a good job of laying things down and then paying them off later.
Yeah, but then he went on to Spider-Man, never made any Reckoning War stuff described during that point, and it seemed like he forgot until recently, where apparently Uatu has returned. And
That's the Watcher, right?
Yeah, and he has declared there will be a reckoning.
So this is from someone who doesn't understand cosmic stuff. So I don't read Green Lantern and I don't read Marvel cosmic stuff, but are the Guardians of the not the Guardians, the Guardians of Oa and the Watchers in Marvel, are they like both Kirby creations or something?
No. First, and the Watcher is a Kirby creation. The Guardians of the Universe, definitely not. Those were definitely the creators of the very first, the earliest Green Lantern. Kirby had nothing to do with that.
Oh, okay. They always seem so similar, but
Kirby's
I don't know why.
Kirby never did anything with the Green Lantern. He never did. But just getting a little tired.
No, just needed some air.
But yeah, though but like I said, the big difference is the Watchers do not interfere. They observe, but they do not interfere. The Guardians, on the other hand, oh boy, they can interfere to their heart's content, and yet be all higher than thou.
So, let's get back a little to DC, because I'm way out of my depth on most Marvel. How do you think Death Metal is going to end up?
I think Death Metal is going to end up where, well, like Wonder Woman even said, they're going to have to basically restart everything. I'll be honest, I'm getting a bit of a parallel with both Crisis on Infinite Earth and Zero Hour combined.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be an anti-crisis, so that would make some sense.
I know. Well, I know, but it looks like they are demolishing everything, which happened in both Crisis on Infinite Earth and Zero Hour. More Zero Hour, believe it or not. And then eventually they're going to do this big bang that's going to unleash everything, and everything's going to properly, without a doubt, all the toys are going to be back out there. And I think they're going to actually go with what Hal originally was going to do in Zero Hour. Bring back the multiverse where anyone can have an Earth for themselves.
Except Convergence already did that, didn't it?
It did, but it was never properly folded in the continuity.
Right, and the first Metal was all about the dark multiverse, so it didn't really deal with the main multiverse, I think.
Exactly. So I think this is a case where this is going to more properly happen in a main event, not an event that really only happened like behind, as far as the main DC universe were concerned, happened behind the scenes.
Right. So do you think that's going to have a big effect on anything ongoing, or how do you think that'll play out?
I will say, I said this on Purchase show before a few days ago, and I'll say that here. I do not think it's going to. I think it's more going to have a general, again, the toys are open and everything, and I think it's all more going to determine what happens after the two generations one-shots that surround Future State that are going to determine things. Because I do think that, again, what happened to Batman in that story that Dan Jurgens did, I think that was the effects of Death Metal catching up.
Okay.
Yeah, and that might explain away inconsistencies, but I think it's more going to be a fact that because here's the other big thing. Dark Knight's Metal it opened up. We saw what led up to everything, the shit hitting the fan. So you could say it tied in more to continuity there. Death metal, I do not think of it like that because it already opens up. The change has already happened. So I look at it more of a case where this is happening parallel to everything else going on. The only thing that kind of messes up with that is Justice League Odyssey number 25, where you have Cyborg and Starfire make it back to Earth, and as soon as they arrive there, they're changed into their death metal appearances, and they're like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just really confused because I'm still not quite understanding how this future story is connecting to the main continuity. And
again, this future story, I think it determines. I think we'll probably get that more strengthened out when we read Generation Shattered.
Yeah. That makes sense. And
yeah.
So I personally think that we're going to see the Batgirl's concept carry forward into the main line in March.
Oh, yeah. I think anything that was already set up in Warzone is going to be carried over to March. I think Batman, their editors already planned this out, I think. I don't know about...
What do you think is going to get carried forward from, like, Superman? And so Perch thinks that the new Wonder Woman is going to be a new character. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think so, too. I think because she's already getting a lot of buzz. I think she's going to be very popular going in.
But do you think anything's going to carry forward from Superman or Justice League?
No. Superman, Justice League, I don't think so. Especially not Flash. Good Lord, not Flash.
Yeah, that's such a weird choice.
That's the case. That's a proof right there. And again, people are complaining, but it's like, guys, this was clearly written well in advance before they started to fix Wally. I don't think they were going to go in and totally rework it. Otherwise, they'd have to repay Brandon Beite again to rewrite it.
Yeah. And
so
I mean, that's the starting thing. So, I mean, it's very possible that he starts off evil and then turns good,
Maybe, but again, you get what I'm saying, though, right? It's like there's no way they're going to rehire him to do a rewrite.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I don't think, and I definitely do not think any of the Superman stuff's going to carry over. You look at a lot of that stuff, it's playing off of what Bendis set up.
Well, and it's also very filler arc feeling.
Although I'm confused by why the Superman's having the Kingdom Come logo on.
Because dark and history. And...
I know the one Superman. Yeah.
The one guy I know who's like a huge Superman fan on Discord, he's a little disappointed because a lot of the stuff that they're doing for Future State was already done twice.
Oh, yeah. Superman going into exile. There was a story called Superman Exile.
Yeah.
And him on.
And then they homaged it when R.I.P. Batman R.I.P. happened, and he was also exiled then too.
Yeah, but I was saying but the whole him in exile, and then he was. Well, first of all, he wasn't in exile. He was doing Planet Krypton. He was dealing with Krypton then.
Right. But it was the same sort of idea where he's off Earth dealing with non-Earth problems.
Yeah, but in the case of the exile and adding more world, that goes back to the original Superman Exile, both counts. Whereas going to Krypton is it was more its own thing. So I mean, I get why he would think that. It's more closer to the original Superman Exile story. And I'm just like, why are we going back to that? At least in the original Exile, it made sense. Because you know why he did that? You want to know, and do you know one thing that post-crisis Superman did that John Byrne did before he left the title that irrevocably changed the character, from that he never did before? He killed.
Whoa, really?
He killed 3 Kryptonians, a version of General Zod and 2 others, with green kryptonite. They're begging and pleading, but he killed them. And I should point it now, to be fair, they were stuck on a dying planet. They had lost their powers to gold kryptonite. So he was either going to leave them there, or he would, bring them back, but run the risk of their powers possibly returning, or kill them. Byrne decided he killed them, and Byrne was just going to play. And he left then afterwards. So you had Mike Carlin and Jerry Ordway, the two carryovers, decided, oh boy, because Byrne kind of had it be where Superman kind of just brushed it off, but they're like, there's no way he brushed it off. So they have it be on the surface, it appeared he brushed it off, but in actuality, he was taking the gangbuster suit and going out and being like a Batman, like vigilante in the evening, beating up thugs all over, until finally he gets the helmet knocked off. He realized what happened, and he's like, oh my God, I'm becoming a hazard, because all of his anger for what he had done was just building up in him, and he realized, I'm a danger to Earth. So he takes off into Earth, and he puts himself in a self-exile because he feels like, I killed. Why did and he's trying to come to terms with it, and during his time in space, he eventually does.
That's really weird. See, I recently read Man of Steel for the first time, just a couple months ago. First time I've ever read, and I'm talking about the John Byrne one. The John Byrne one. And I really liked it, kind of amusingly, because there was a BBC radio drama that was basically an adaptation.
Yep, I remember that.
But and I've never read the main Superman
issues.
run that Byrne did.
Yep, well, actually, that radio drama does adapt some of the first couple of issues of Byrne's run as well.
Oh, okay.
That's why you have Metallo and everything in there, because he was in the very first issue proper.
Metallo.
Yep, and that was the point where he made him Terminator instead of RoboCop. Yeah. Trust me, that era of Superman was so amazing. I always loved that era of Superman for the longest time. During the whole Carlin era of Superman, from Man of Steel all the way up to Our World. No, not Our World at War. By the time of Superman 2000, when Berganza took over.
Ugh.
But yeah, he was on there for almost like almost a decade and a half.
Yeah.
And that's where, and also I'll say this: if you look back, there was a reason why after Superman killed, he vowed never to kill, and this actually would bite him in the butt royally, especially in the Superman Alien crossover, which, believe it or not, is canon.
Oh, really?
The very first one is canon, because they would actually make references to it with little bullet points and all that during later stories.
Who wrote the crossover?
Jurgens.
Oh, of course it. Okay.
He wrote and drew it. But yeah, in that case, though, Superman, he was so against killing any living being that he wouldn't, except for one time, he refused to kill even the Xenomorphs.
That seems... Are Xenomorphs sentient?
Not really, but they're still living.
Well, yeah, but like Superman will... Mark Waid said he was a vegetarian, but most people don't have Superman be a vegetarian.
I know, that bothered me as well, but I will say, but here's the thing, this is a Superman that did not usually deal with parademons on a regular basis for him to develop that, they're not sentient, kill them.
Are parademons sentient?
No. They are mindless creatures, which actually became a plot point during the Elseworld Superman Batman Generation 3, where they actually do gain sentience, but the only person who ever finds that out is the one of Superman's granddaughters, and when she finds out, she kills the parademons, so no one else does, because she knows if they find out, they'll hold back. Because
why wouldn't we hold back?
Because that means they have a choice and everything. And she realized, we're already having a hard enough time in this fight as it is. We can't allow, I can't allow them to find out and make it even harder. Because they'll be being like, we should find a way to save them and and free them if they actually have sentience. You gotta remember, they were really pushing all this stuff of thou shalt not kill and everything, which even I have to admit, I think they get to ludicrous degrees. And that's probably one of my only beefs with Infinite Crisis was the finger wagging they did at Wonder Woman when her killing Maxwell Lord made perfect sense. I was so ticked off at the hot holier than thou that Batman and Superman both gave her, especially Batman.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the do not kill rule is good for Superman and Batman. Maybe because I love Greg Rucka's run on Wonder Woman, I don't have a problem with her killing in extreme circumstances. I don't like the fact that they seem to have made her kind of bloodthirsty sometimes after that, because that's not what Rucka did at all.
Oh, I agree with that. But her reason for killing off Maxwell Lord made sense.
Well, there was no other solution. And that's kind of the thing is you have to make a choice as a writer. You have to either decide that you agree with the no killing rule or you don't. Because if you agree with the no killing rule, then you will write situations that have solutions. If you don't agree with the no killing rule, you will write situations that have no solutions, but then editorial will make you have a solution.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, even though I like it, I think that the Under the Red Hood storyline about Jason is a little silly because Batman is never going to kill. So stop trying to make him.
Oh, I know. But to be fair, in that case, though, it made sense for Jason to do that.
That story really kind of damaged Jason's character because ever since then, he's going to be the guy who put a bunch of heads in a duffel bag.
Oh, have you seen the Death in the Family movie yet?
Someone put a bunch of the endings on YouTube.
Okay.
And I've watched through some of them, and I think it's interesting. It seems like it's not quite high quality enough to justify a full price.
Well, I will say this, the amount of differences, especially now I'll say this. 2 of the choices about Robin dies are one-time choosing. There's no other alternatives. The only one that gives you alternatives is Batman saves Jason. The other 2 just go off either into a retelling with Batman's narrations over Under the Red Hood, which is the obvious one, or they go off into a one-time story, a one-time bit. With a clever ending, I will say. That was a good twist. That was the Hush one.
Yeah.
That Hush one was a good twist. But I will say though, I think the one where Jason decides I'm not going to kill the Joker, I actually didn't mind the fact that he kept convincing himself I didn't kill, and then Joker calls him out saying, "You convinced yourself you didn't do it." I gotta say, John DiMaggio, he is a great successor to Mark's Joker, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
I do sometimes have difficulty not hearing his Kim Possible roles.
Draken, Dr. Draken, or Motorhead.
Yeah. But he's a great voice actor.
Oh, you know what the perfect thing he can ever do is he can somehow perfectly emulate a bong. Just taking a hit from a bong. He can perfectly emulate that. You're like, how can you do that?
Acting.
I know, but I gotta say, I do have a feeling that you have to wonder. Do you think Winnick wrote the ending of Under the Hood for Jason to die again in that moment? Because it felt like he did.
So my take on that would be there was
or
still.
Do you think Eric Battle misdrew it? Do you think Eric Battle misdrew it?
No. So my take is that there's 2 things going on there for me. Jason's return was marked by a lot of hesitation because they teased it and faked out in Hush, and then Winnick retconned Hush, so it actually was Jason instead of Clayface.
But but in that way, it made sense in that regard, though, because
But the point is that DC wasn't sure. They were constantly testing and giving themselves a way out, so it didn't have to be Jason.
I think that's why he had him undo the helmet early on for the readers before Bruce found out. I think that's why Winnick did it, to basically be all like, okay, I'm kind of forcing their hands, unless the editors. I mean, obviously, I'm being hyperbolic saying that, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely wanted to make a strong statement about Jason, but I also think that editorial was like, well, let's give ourselves an out in the end. So I think that's why they sort of gave an option for Jason maybe being dead. I think the other thing is, so much of that story connected to Death in the Family. So I think that they wanted to really have that parallel of Jason being dead at the end of Death in the Family, and then maybe Jason's dead again at the end of Under the Red Hood. So I think that was sort of like a stylistic thing.
And it felt so off of Bruce throwing the batarang, but then he hit Jason in the neck. I'm like, okay.
That was so over the top.
I know. That's why I prefer Under the... Now, to be fair, it makes it dumb on Jason's part and Under the Red Hood, where then he decides, like, okay, I'm going to take a risk and point the gun at you. It's like, Jason, you had this all thought out. You really you should have known how that was going to end. You know, shooting at Bruce while he's walking away.
Yeah.
But either way, though, I still felt, that was so over the top. I have a feeling that was Eric Battle's artwork, more so than whatever Winnick wrote. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know. I like my theory is that DC editorial wanted to keep it ambiguous, and there's also the parallels with Death in the Family.
Yep. And then remember that originally it was going to be Jason was going to take over Nightwing, and then instead he becomes this weird monster. But
everyone likes weird monsters.
Clear that they backed. It was so clear that once they kept Dick still alive, and they didn't know what to do with Jason afterwards, that they just didn't know what to do with him, period, for a good number of years. I think Morrison did a good attempt, and then Winnick, came. Hello, you're getting all choppy.
Oh, sorry. I was having difficulty hearing because it was a little robot-y.
Oh, I guess there was some slowdown on your end, but I was saying was Morrison at least made a good attempt to fix Jason. Wouldn't you say during his Batman and Robin?
Well, that's a good question, because Morrison did two distinct things with Jason. He had Jason be sort of a real antagonist to Dick and Damian, but then...
And gave him a Robin.
I like Scarlet. I wish more people did stuff with Scarlet. But then in Batman Incorporated, Wingman was a secret hero.
Oh, yeah.
I really need to figure out... So, what's his name? Lobdell actually used Wingman again in his Red Hood run about a year ago, and I was reading it at the time.
Did they ever resolve that? Did they ever resolve that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I need to find out. Let me see. Wingman.
Yeah, I have no idea if they resolved that or not. Because I was following Nerdette's reviews on that, and then she stopped, so I don't know what happened with him.
But that's confusing because it was in Red Hood and it's not showing up.
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's the thing about the internet, is that that it's only what people feel is important to put out there.
Exactly. I mean, that's the tricky thing, is you can never know for certain. Okay, when was that? That was right after 25. Let's see if I can find it. Nope, I'm not seeing. Wait, who's Willis Todd?
I have no idea.
Oh, apparently he's the biological father of Jason, and he apparently.
Oh yeah, I think they added. Really?
Yeah, that's what it's telling me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because he's from 28 to 36. It looks like he was a consistent character there.
Ah, okay.
Huh. I'll have to check that out on DC Universe because that's old enough that I can read it all.
Right. But yeah, though, it's just, you know what I mean, right? It just feels, but at least with him, and I did like the idea that Morrison revealed that, oh, Jason was actually a redhead, but then Batman made him dye his hair. I'm like, okay, that's a clever way of referencing pre-crisis Jason with post-crisis.
But that makes Bruce so terrible.
I know. Here's what I think was Bruce. He wanted to keep a consistency between the Robins.
But why?
Why? Because for most people in Gotham, they're not going to tell the difference between the Robin. They know Robin exists, but not everyone's seen Robin. Now, as far as regular villains, okay, yeah, that may be a point there, but you get what I'm saying, right?
I don't know. I mean, partly because, you know, my icon is Stephanie Brown, and no one would ever guess that she was the same Robin.
Well, no, obviously he obviously gave up the consistency later on, but I have to agree with, I do adore Stephanie, but I came into comics after she died.
Yeah, I came in just before she died, so I was like, oh, I liked her, and now
Yep.
she is gone.
Yep, but then I'll be honest, I was one of those who was ready to pair Tim up with Rose.
That was
Ravager.
a weird Teen Titans arc.
That was weird, but I always just loved that bit of her, trying to seduce him.
Tim's like, what? Why? I don't understand.
I know. Come on, we could be more than. I know. Like, have you been drinking? Maybe. I
do really like Ravager.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I definitely love Rose. Has become one of my favorite female comic characters. Period.
So, let me think.
Yep.
Do you think, what Bat Family books do you think we're going to get following Future State? Because we've canceled Batgirl, Nightwing.
It's still going.
I mean, we're going to get a Nightwing series, obviously. But do you think we'll have a Batgirls book, or do you think we'll have a Birds of Prey book? Do you think we'll have a Robin book?
I think they're going to try and put it under a Bat Family branch.
I mean, if they do Batman Family or Bat Family or Gotham Knights, I would be really happy because that's the kind of stuff I like to see.
Right now, do I think now? Here's the other big thing to ask: do you think Babs is going to stay Oracle?
Well, Tynan has promised that she's going to be like Oracle. I don't think DC will let him make her Oracle proper, but I think she'll be more of a leader and a trainer, and she'll do a lot of technical support and strategy and logistics.
I love the whole bit with it's great to have you in my ear and hearing you in my ear again. Behind you, I knew he was there. Sure you did. I love the banter. It was so great to have that banter back because you realize you haven't heard that banter since pre-52.
Not actually true. We had that banter in Ben Percy's run of Nightwing for just like 3 months.
Oh.
I actually started collecting Nightwing.
I didn't buy that run, so I didn't read that run. So
a lot of people didn't like it because Percy made Dick into a technophobe, and he's like, I don't like using phones. I like walking on the ground, and it was kind of funny.
We got someone about to join us.
Ah.
Hey.
Hello.
Greetings.
Hey, Dion. Or Dominic.
Hello, Robert.
I think Dion. Dominic. Hey.
I'll go by many names.
Yep. So, hey, and welcome aboard, man. So, yeah, you were saying, Ian?
What was I saying?
About Percy's
run? Yeah.
run?
Ben Percy. I started collecting it because the very first issue had Dick and Babs on the phone and it felt like Oracle and Nightwing again. I was like, this characterization, I'm on board with. But then, of course, DC editorial was like, nope, you got to make him Rick. And then I was off.
I don't blame you on that one, but I would say though, Stephanie was definitely the first proper Batgirl I saw because again they were going through that whole. By the time I got in, you had of course Cassandra going evil, and then all that happening.
Such a terrible run.
I gotta say, I could accept Adam Beecham's explanation afterwards about what happened with Batgirl, if not for one appearance. Her appearance in Supergirl totally blows that out of the water.
That was so weird. Such a weird appearance.
You know what I mean? Would you agree with that? Doesn't that contradict everything that Beecham was trying to claim in his fix? Because, like, how do you explain that appearance?
Well, I mean, if I were trying to fix it timeline-wise, I'd just say that Deathstroke hit her with a dart. So she had a new dose of the drug.
Yeah, because it just made no sense. And her having those red light or red solar blades and everything. And then, of course, you had Joe Kelly trying to make sense. I felt so bad for Joe Kelly. He was given a raw
so
deal.
Cool.
It did look cool, but I was just saying, though, you got to be honest. Joe Kelly was given such a raw deal. Jeff Loeb created this weird twist on Supergirl. Greg Rucka was supposed to take over, only did one issue in, and then Joe Kelly had to pick up the pieces from there and go forward, and yet still tell his own tale of Supergirl as well.
That is a rotten
I'm sorry.
hand.
That is such a rotten hand, and I applaud him for doing the best he could. Because he was trying to resolve, because you do know what the big twist was, right?
Nope.
Supergirl's father had sent her to Earth to kill Kal-El.
That's dumb.
Yeah, he was trying to go for a Cain and Abel type bit. But again, that he did put that in the last issue of his run. And like I said, Rucka was supposed to take over. He put her and her and Power Girl in Candor for their 1 year later stuff. And then again, he took off, and then Joe Kelly had to wrap it up. He kind of just cut it short, and then he went into doing his own thing where basically he was trying to tell Supergirl is being a teenager. She is a teenager. She, unfortunately for her baby cousin grew up with that ahead of her, and came up with this, made the the symbol a bigger thing that she has on her chest, and everyone's expecting her to follow in his footsteps, and it's like, why do I have to follow in his footsteps? Why can't I be my own person? Which is not a bad. What?
Well, I was going to ask Dominic what he thought about Future State.
Oh, yeah.
I would say for DC's Future State, all I can say is at least it's not all new, all different Marvel. I'll say that.
You're not looking forward to it?
I mean, I'm honestly ambivalent because on one hand it holds promise, but on the other hand, it could just be an event that you can just skip over and wait until March. Because for what I have looked into so far, yes, it does has the vibe of Convergence and Age of Apocalypse. However, the creative team and also titles that are being made out of that will come after Dark Knight's Death Metal. It's a honestly mixed bag. Some are good, some are bad, and some are just meh.
I would say this: the Batman family books already have been set up to have lead-ins back into the books after March. The editor, I forget his name, but he's made no secret. Yeah, he's made no secret that he is going to, and that a lot of stuff's going to carry over. Now, as far as the Superman books, unfortunately, that's the case where I have a feeling this stuff was written with Bendis' run that was going to continue forward still. I have that feeling, don't you guys? Given the solicitations?
Yeah, I can understand that sentiment.
I think this was meant to be
weird because because Bendis, I think it's pretty clear now that he had to leave early for some reason, but we don't know where he's going yet.
Or the explicit
Who
reasons
knows where he's
on
going? But
why he's being taken out of the Superman title, because clearly once he got on it just started to tank the Superman family titles quality wise.
not just that though, but he was overcharged way too much, and he kept on wanting to have the big name artist on his books, and yet he wasn't delivering the numbers that justified him being on 2 books and his own line and a spin-off book with Legion.
Yeah.
That's where my concerns like for Bendis coming into DC unfortunately come true, because if you pay attention to his like writing and his writing style and also the quality of Marvel, you can tell that he was experiencing creative burnout, and which affected his health in a major way. Because when looking at his before and after pictures, I thought I was looking at
he almost
an
died.
older
He
Michael
almost
Rosenbaum.
died.
Yeah,
He almost died.
yeah, and also from one of Weaponized Nerd Rage's old videos, he talks about like how Bendis wasn't really full in at the current direction that Marvel was heading. And like he is a classical liberal, but he's not far left. And you would think that with him leaving Marvel and into DC,
Could have fooled me in some regards.
Yep. I said to be fair. I said to be fair. Like it did seem that way.
Yeah, true. But from what I've also heard, part of the other reason why Bendis got kicked out is that he had it out for him, from what I understand.
Yeah, because Bendis
he was
really
one of the loudmouths. Yeah.
Bendis really wanted to be involved in the TV stuff, but he's never been able to find a way in, and that I think his attempts to get in really irritated Feige, because he definitely irritated the Raimi people.
Oh, now that I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
like the Raimi people.
Yeah, because he came in and said that you need to have Spider-Man make fun of the Green Goblin, and they're like, "We spent $50 million on this costume," and Bendis is like, "But he should make fun of it." So that didn't go over very well.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that works fine for a high schooler, Peter. They weren't going for a high schooler, Peter. And then, of course, you have Bendis working on that MTV Spider-Man that was supposed to be set in the movie universe, but then wasn't.
Wait, really?
I do wonder why they keep trying to set things in movie universes and then they say nope, because that's what happened with the Netflix stuff, the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Well, that was different. I think Netflix was a legitimate attempt to have it be coexisting.
But then they just dropped it.
Well, don't forget.
Oh yeah, but But I will also say this though. But yeah, with the MTV one, I gotta say though, I didn't mind that MTV series. It had some interesting takes on things.
Yeah, I remember MTV Spider-Man very, very vividly.
I know, and you had Neil Patrick Harris as Peter / Spider-Man.
That was
he did such a great job.
Yeah, that was honestly not a bad take of Spider-Man from Neil Patrick Harris.
And then you had Michael Dorn voicing Kraven the Hunter, who was very interesting. He wore all black except for his collar, which was the tiger design, which I personally feel that's not a bad redesign.
No, it wasn't.
Know what I mean? And he was treated a bit. Now, granted, they treated his one appearance was treated like this was his second appearance or something, unfortunately, but it was still handled very well. The Electro character version of Electro was very interesting. Then you had this one character who was meant to be Black Cat, but then they gave it to, I think, the singer Eve, and that was just stupid. You had, now this one I love, you have Kingpin showing up, voiced by Michael Clark Duncan, and yes, it was meant to tie into the Daredevil movie.
Oh, really? That didn't work out
Yeah.
very
No, it did not. But it was so. Again, it was a nice attempt.
well. Yeah.
But then it ends on a cliffhanger that never got resolved, of course, where Spidey does the whole "I'm Spider-Man no more" because one of his friends got hurt due to his actions, and it just ended there. I
Yeah,
would
it
say
was
this
just.
though. I prefer the what?
No, you finish it.
I would say I prefer the MTV Spider-Man over Spider-Man Unlimited any day.
It was unfortunate that we didn't get a resolvement of that cliffhanger from season one.
Yep. Oh, you want speaking of Spider-Man Unlimited? You do know that through that series, that's the only time we ever had the same actor voice Spider-Man that also voiced Batman,
Yep.
Reno Romano. Which I should also point out. You want to know what one of his earliest roles were in geek culture?
Ah, wait.
He
I mean,
was the first dub voice of Darien in Sailor Moon.
yeah, that's true.
So he was the first one to do the whole like calling her meatball head and everything.
I'd say that was an interesting
So
journey
yeah,
of
I mean,
him from Darian to well, Batman and Spider-Man, and also later
he
future
did
roles.
he did, but then he also had Extreme Ghostbusters in between.
Yep.
Yep,
Well, I
again, the
have
guy
to
is a
run,
very good actor, and he would also. Oh, okay.
but thanks for having me
Thanks for
on,
joining me, man.
and you and
No
Dominic have a great
problem.
night.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Well, you met him before.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
no.
did. Yeah,
No,
you met
but
him before. You know.
yeah, no, but it was good seeing him nonetheless.
Right. So, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, just just been relaxing and also doing some early Christmas shopping.
Ah, smart. So, what comics have you been keeping up with?
I would say Joshua Williamson's Birthrights, as well as
Oh,
Death Metal, and also every now and then the Ten of Swords event, because I'm just curious to see how it will turn out.
yep. Now, with Death Metal, what did you think about the recent issue?
Okay, so that I've not read issue 4 yet, but I did read Speed Metal.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, me too, and it tied in very well with Joshua Williamson's run of the Flash, before it ended.
But it does give you one little bit of a insight into Williamson, which I can't help but wonder: do you think this proved that he preferred Wally over Barry?
It, it definitely feels that way because I just have this feeling that he is probably one of the many people who grew up with Wally West as the Flash before Barry came back in Final Crisis.
Exactly, and it just once I read that, I was like, the way he was handling Wally and the way Barry was interacting with Wally, just felt like, okay, this confirms that he really wanted to do Wally, but he was stuck with Barry. Not saying that he was trying to derail Barry. I'm not saying that, but it just still felt like you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, yeah, he was able to work with what he had.
But you can still tell there was a little bit of um, a taint, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so I gotta ask though, and did you see my rant video?
For DC's future state? No,
Yeah.
no, I just saw. Oh no, I just saw the image of it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I went off on basically how everyone is reacting to future state. in a way that
I haven't watched anybody's reaction videos for a future state, but I did watch a brief clip of Tristan's reaction to future state, and she's
oh no,
willing to give it a chance.
Tristan was fine. Yeah, Tristan
Yeah,
is fine. Perch is fine, and your boy Zach is fine. But everyone else is looking like they're doubling, tripling down on wokeness. This is their last hurrah. It's like, guys, it's like this proved what we were saying. No, it doesn't. This proves what Perch was saying. Ah,
I mean, essentially, future state is convergence mixed in with Age of Apocalypse after death metal.
which is what I said in my video. I
And
actually made that comparison. I compared it to here's what I made the comparison to actually: Age of Apocalypse, DC 1,000,000, Futures End, and Convergence, with a little bit of Avengers Forever for the opening and ending, one shots.
I see.
The heroes plucked from time and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I remember Adventures Forever.
Yeah, but that's where I get the feeling for the book.
Yeah, and I did mention in the chat that I'll be relieved that the future state Flash one shot does not get carried over into the main timeline once future state is over.
The only thing I would say is I am at least looking the only thing I'm looking forward to is the fact it's written by Brandon Viti, who is the co-producer of Young Justice. He directed Batman Under the Red Hood, and he wrote and directed the Batman Death in the Family short.
Oh, all right.
Same guy, so he definitely will be able to handle things.
Now, will this be his first stint in writing a comic book, or has he written comics before?
I think he's written comics before. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Yeah, because
I'm just looking up right.
All right, because screenwriting and writing comic books are different.
Right. I'm looking right now. Well, first of all, he is also a writer for Justice League and for Young Justice.
The tiny comic books?
No, the actual show.
All right.
Yeah, so he doesn't show much of his comic work, but I'm pretty sure I've seen his name somewhere else. Hold on, I'm just looking up to see what if he's done other comic work. Just a moment.
Yeah, take your time.
Apparently, he did do at least one part of a story during Joe Kubert Presents years ago.
Oh, all right.
So this is not his very first comic work.
I see.
It's just he's done a lot of directing and everything beforehand.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. Like his experience as a writer, director, and television will help him, and getting back into writing comic books.
Right, exactly. So, and who can say now? I think he was just tapped in to try and fill things in. Again, it's clear this whole event was meant to be longer, and and all that, but we have it the way it is now.
Yeah, until it got reshuffled to tidy up and redone. Not completely, but enough for it to make sense once death metal's over.
Exactly. But again, I do not think this is the doom and gloom, the end of everything.
Yeah, I don't see that way either, because from what I remember after death metal and future states, the next event that will happen sometime later in the future is Endless Winter.
No. That's going to be in December.
Oh.
And the whole point of Endless Winter is to just mark time for some of the other books that are not going to be ending. Sorry. that they're not going to be ending right on time, on schedule for to line up with death metal. So they're doing that so books like Justice League and Aquaman and all that stuff could have a so they don't have to cancel it right away.
Mm.
Because obviously those are books that are going to continue on after Future State stops. So that means then they want it to carry over. Basically, all those books, all the story arcs and everything, are either ended before or right during December.
Hmm.
Oh, hold on. Lost my headphones. Hold on. There we go. What were you saying?
So does Endless Winter have or
No,
does it
it's
not
a
have
little. It's a little
connections
stuff.
with death metal and
No connection. No connections. No connection. It's just a little fun story that's just meant to mark time. That's why it begins and ends during that month.
So a filler arc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a filler arc, just trying to, again, make sure these titles line up with the end of Death Metal.
All right.
Now, you know what? I've realized a vibe I'm kind of going to be getting after Future State is it's either going to be like Convergence, where you get some shake-up stories, or it's going to be like 1 year later after Infinite Crisis. Which I love that. I thought that 1 year later experiment was interesting, but it fell flat on its face.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that period of time after Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, some of them were very good. Others were just, ugh.
Yeah, you're not wrong that the end point for 1 year later could have been handled better. But the building
Yeah.
was
I mean,
good. Everyone appreciated the journey.
I know, but the fact they had to each come up with a drastic change to do it, and for Catwoman they had to be, let's give her a kid, but it's not Bruce's. I still remember how everyone was ticked off by that.
I don't blame them.
Remember, it was Slam Bradley's kids, not his kid, but his son's was the father.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh Lord. And the fact that she named it her and the baby Helena, it's like, oh, Stan was in the room in the back, Will Pfeiffer. By the way, where has Will Pfeiffer been?
Good question, because the last work I've read of Will Pfeiffer is his run of Dial H for Hero.
Yeah. Well, actually, for
that's
me,
good. It still holds up.
for me, the last thing I ever read for him chronologically was his Captain Atom.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Atom Armageddon. No, Captain Atom Armageddon.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
the Wildstorm, the Wildstorm crossover.
Yeah, I remember reading Captain Atom Armageddon. So, actually, I'll take back what I said. That makes it two of the last works of Will Pfeiffer's that I read. It was Dial H for Hero, and Captain Atom Armageddon.
Yeah. Besides his Catwoman run when that ended.
I have now read his Catwoman run. Was it any good?
But again, he's the one who did that 1 year later story.
I see.
Yeah. But dude, actually I gotta say, I hate for bringing you on only to cut it short, but I'm starting to get a little tired.
No, that's okay. But I'm glad to jumped on just for a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I'm running out of things to talk about anyway, so yeah.
That's
Anyone
okay.
that's still here, anyone that's still here, thank you for coming on, for staying with us, and we'll catch you all later.
See you later, everyone. Have a safe and pleasant weekend.